Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Forshmine. A little bit later than scheduled. We do appreciate you bearing with us. It just sometimes the stars don't quite align, and it is what it is. But it'll all be worth it, ladies and gentlemen. I can assure you. Just do a little bit of housekeeping before we get cracking. Please don't forget to like, comment on, and share the stream to your social media platforms. Subscribe to our YouTube channel and hit the bell icon, and you'll be notified of any new content as and when it is uploaded to the channel. Such as this, we are in a live Q&A with former West Ham United goalkeeper Mr. Tom Mcalister. How are you, sir?
I'm very well, thanks, chaps. Yeah, happy
All
to be on your show eventually.
Like I say, good things come to those who wait, Tom. That's the old adage. So we've all been waiting. We've been sort of like beavering away in the background. The people watching this are probably sitting there thinking that I was late, Duke was late, and it's technical issues. It's technical issues, guys. It happens when you're doing live streaming. But there you go. How are you, Mr. Mcalister? You all good?
Yeah, I'm fine. Absolutely okay. Yes.
Life's treating you well. Good. Well, for those of you that are watching live, as I say, this is a live Q&A, so we're dependent upon you guys getting your questions in. So as it says on that banner there, please do get your questions in for Tom, and please start them with a Q so it's easier for us to find when we're picking our way through the live chat. So Tom, just to sort of start right at the very beginning with you, with your career, just looking here, before you came to West Ham, obviously you're Scottish, obviously, but you never actually played any of your professional career in Scotland. Is that correct?
That's correct. Yes. It wasn't, to be honest, it wasn't something that really interested me. I always had an ambition to get to England and play down there, try my luck there. I had a couple of offers from, well, the top two teams as they were at the time, still are, Rangers and Celtic, but I couldn't take those on. I was determined to get down south.
It was a big draw to sort of like to play sort of south of the border, was it? Even back in those days.
Yeah, but there were other reasons. I'd heard different things about apprenticeships in England, and how you're sort of working at the club full time, picking things up and training full time. In Scotland, that wasn't on offer. You trained once a week with the main side that you signed for, but you played for a semi-professional team on the Saturday, and that it wasn't the sort of commitment I was looking for. So that's why I went south.
And you found yourself, according to the oracle that is Wikipedia, it says that you had your youth career and you made your pro debut indeed for Sheffield United.
Yes. It was interesting ending up at Sheffield United. I'd been on trial at quite a few of the major clubs in England, but nothing came of it. And then one day out of the blue, I was offered an opportunity to go for a trial at Sheffield United. I took it and things worked out all right. They must have liked what they saw there and took me on board.
Yeah, just looking here, you made 63 appearances in the league in four years for Sheffield United. Is that about right?
Well, that's correct. I played 2 full seasons, full season and a half in the first team, and then unfortunately I got my leg broken.
Ouch.
So 2 of those seasons that you're talking about, I wasn't actually playing. I was in plaster cast. So that put an end to that career at Sheffield.
And obviously, I mean, sort of like we're going back to the sort of the early mid 70s when you sustained that.
Yes, 73. I got my leg broken. Yeah.
That obviously would have been a more serious injury now, I'm guessing, than possibly it would be now. Obviously, with the advances in medical procedures and all the rest of it. I mean, was there at any point that your career was ever thought to be in jeopardy, or was it all fairly straightforward as far as your recovery was concerned?
The recovery wasn't that straightforward, as you say. Treatment, medical things have changed since then. It crossed my mind to stop playing, but the the club had me insured for an awful lot of money in those days, and they weren't prepared to let me walk away from that. And that, I had to get fit again and let them do what they had to do.
Duke, anything you want to ask Tom?
No, I mean, Tom, obviously you said there, like, at what point, obviously through your rehab from the leg, and just how, obviously you say there the club were kind of insistent on you coming back. I mean, how, in your own mind, how close were you to really, even with the club putting a little bit of pressure on you to come back, how close were you to actually just going, nah, enough's enough, and actually just walking away from it all?
I don't think I was that close, because I had a couple of people at the club that were like pushing me along and keeping me going. It entered my head. I actually broke my leg twice. I came back from the original break, and I got a knock on it in the next match I played in a friendly, and it cracked it a little bit. So that put a doubt in my head. But somehow along the line, the doubts disappeared and I was all right.
Fair enough. I mean, as you say there, back then, as Rob mentioned, how it took a little bit longer. It was, advances in medicine. How long were you actually out for with the broken leg before you actually came back to even attempting to try and train? What was the time frame with it?
It was exactly 2 years. Well, I broke it in October and I got back again the August 2 years later. But the rehab was about 6 months out of plaster. But obviously, by the time I got back to full fitness, things had changed at Sheffield. Management had changed. They bring in their own people, and you have to wonder whether you've still got a chance there or you've got to move on. And I had to move on.
Fair. And just looking here, you went down the road to Rotherham United and then latterly Blackpool. Made one appearance for Swindon Town, but was then loaned out to Bristol Rovers. And from my information, it was there that there was a little bit of a twist of fate at the end of the 1980-81 season when you were representing Bristol Rovers and you had played a game at Upton Park, I do believe.
Yeah. Prior to joining Bristol Rovers, as you said, I ended up at Swindon Town. It just came about as, I don't know, a stepping stone to something. But they didn't want me to. They weren't convinced I was to play for them. Again, they changed their manager just after I signed. So you're working for someone that didn't really want you there anyway. It was quite bluntly put to me. So I got a chance to go on loan with Bristol Rovers in the second division. They were basically bottom. They needed an experienced goalkeeper. The wonderful Terry Cooper, ex-Leeds England.
Yeah.
He was the manager, and he was wonderful. So I stayed there for 2 months. We did all right. And the last game of the season, this story's been told, I've told it, was at Upton Park. We had to win, which we hadn't won a game all season. And West Ham had to win the championship. And obviously they beat us 2-0. And they won the championship and Bristol Rovers got relegated. But I was on my way back to Swindon. And then that was on a Saturday. On the Monday, I got a telephone call from the manager at Swindon asking me if I'd be interested in speaking to John Lyle with a possibility of moving to West Ham. So I don't know what he was thinking, but to me it was a no-brainer. And I got to meet John. And
so how did that meeting go? Was it sort of like, this is obviously in a day before the internet, before Sky Sports News, probably football agents, I'm guessing, were probably not as rife as they currently are. So what was set the scene for us, Tom? How did it all come about?
Right. Well, as I say, I was asked if I wanted to meet John. So it was arranged to meet him in a hotel just outside Swindon. The assistant manager of Swindon took me along. John came along. We sat down, had lunch. and he asked me if I'd be interested in joining West Ham. There weren't too many seconds passed before I said yeah. There was a bit of a haggle between John and the assistant manager at Swindon because some financial reasons, and John just told him to sort it out and knowing certain terms, and it went from there. And a lot of people know the story that John took me outside to the car park to talk terms, and I sat in the car park and he told me what he would offer contract-wise, what the situation would be. Phil was there, so obviously I knew my place, and he put the financial contract, the financial terms to me, and I agreed. Obviously, I would have probably gone for nothing if they'd just paid my mortgage. But so John then proceeded to hand me a contract to sign. And the interesting thing, and I know people have heard this because I've told it on events, the contract was blank. There was nothing in it. There's no terminology, number of years, no financial data, how much, whatever. And I just looked at John. I said, Mr. Lyle, it's a blank contract, sir. He says, yeah, so. and I said, well, I've got to sign a blank contract. And he just looked at me with one of those looks and says, well, do you think I'm an honest man, Tom? I said, of course. He says, we'll sign the contract. And that was it. I signed. To be fair, obviously, he came up with what he promised.
Yeah. I mean, I think everybody that I've spoken to that actually had direct dealings with John Lyle have all said he was a man of great integrity, a man of great principle. So I guess with that sort of reputation, it was probably quite easy. Had it been someone that you might have thought was a little bit less on the straight and narrow sort of thing, it might have been more of a risk on your part. But given who it was, as you say, it was a fairly straightforward thing for you.
Well, obviously, I only knew him from reputation, but as someone once, one of the ex-players said to me at an event, he says, Tom, you wouldn't have done that if Harry Redknapp had been the manager, would you?
You said that, Tom. I kept very quiet.
No. Somebody told me that. I didn't know about Harry then. But yeah, so that's the way that came about.
Oh, brilliant.
Everything worked out okay.
Cool. Well, Tom, we're getting plenty of questions. We got a couple of video questions that have been submitted by people in advance of this particular broadcast, and we've got lots of questions that are coming in via the live chat. So, Duke, do you want to dive into the starred comments and pick up one of the questions from the live chat, mate?
Let's do it. Well, Mark's thrown up a dozen or so of these questions. But I'm actually going to start with Sharky's, Tom. So he asks, did you always want to be a goalkeeper when you started playing football?
No. Okay, that's not quite true. I did want to be a goalkeeper, but at school, they didn't think I was good. I played outfield at school for the local area schools team. I played outfield, and it was really just somehow by accident that I managed to squeeze a gaming goal when I was at my senior school, and it went from there. But I was always playing outfield up until I was about 13, 14, something like that. So.
They do say that, don't they? That you don't necessarily start out wanting to be a goalkeeper. Some twist of fate ends up resulting in you being stuck between the sticks, as it were. I mean, I weren't actually a bad goalkeeper, but I hated it. There was not enough money in the world that could have got me playing as a as a goalkeeper, just as a regular basis. I was quite happy to fill in every now and again, or maybe go and goal for penalty shootouts and stuff. In like it was squad games, but no, there was nothing. You have to an element of crazy, I believe, is the phrase to be a keeper.
That's what they say, but maybe I am. I don't know.
I think you have to have a different mentality, though, don't you, Tom, to be a goalkeeper? Because it's a position that you're very isolated, I guess. Whereas if a outfielder makes a mistake, there's lots of players to cover. But a lot of the time, when you make a mistake as a goalkeeper, it results in a goal. So it's a very, very, you have to be quite resilient to be a goalkeeper, don't you?
Yes, that's the fact that if you make a mistake, it can invariably lead to a goal. I suppose after a very short period, you get used to that, and you think, well, that's part and parcel of the job, you know. So you makes you become more focused on what you've got to do. But everybody makes mistakes, whether it's a goalkeeper or outfield player. So
True.
you learn to live with it.
It's the cross you have to bear as the guy between the sticks. Duke, we've got a video question from Mr. Paul Stewart.
Not the Paul Stewart.
Not the Paul Stewart. He's a Paul Stewart.
Hey, Paul Stewart. Here we go.
Oh, hi, Tom. Hi, Paul here. Just a quick question really about your recollections of playing at Upton Park, because it's a place that's very special to us West Ham fans. And, as a goalkeeper, you being closer to the pitch arguably than any other sort of player, I just wonder what your memories are. Are there any specific ones of any particular games or saves that you made there that stick in the mind? And also what it was like on the flip side of that coin when maybe West Ham weren't playing so well, and it was an intimidating place not only for opposition but arguably for West Ham too when we weren't doing so well. So what was really your overriding memories of playing at Upton Park? It'd be something I'd like to hear about. So thanks a lot.
Okay, that's an interesting question with a lot of answers. I loved Upton Park. Just everything about it, the closeness of the supporters, the noise, the honesty of the supporters. I was quite fortunate, even if the team were having a little rough patch at home. For some reason, maybe it was just that I wasn't involved in the game, but I never seemed to take too much stick from the crowd, personally. But I can imagine well, the supporters at that time know better than me about the chicken run. And I would have hated to have been a winger out there, whether it was a West Ham winger or somebody else's. But I loved everything about West Ham. I just loved the crowd. I loved the accessibility that everybody had to each other, whether it was supporters or the players. Everything. It was just probably if you take international grounds out, size, everything about that, West Ham's probably, well, I know for a fact it's the best ground I've ever played at and been involved with. So I loved it. Fortunately, I had left way before they moved. I don't know how I'd have dealt with that.
Yeah, it was. I think someone's asked the question. I tell you, I'm gonna, if you don't mind, Duke.
You go find it. No, go on.
Just whilst that question, that statement has just been made. Where it is. Because Happy asked this question a little earlier, and it sort of kind of feeds into what we're talking about here just there, Tom. She asks, I realise this may have been covered by the time you reach here, but no, it hasn't. Has Tom been to the London Stadium? And if so, then any comparison between there and Upton Park?
Okay. That's an interesting question. It's a timely question. When I stopped playing for West Ham, I never ever went back to watch a match at West Ham or at the London Stadium, and that's for the best part of 30 years.
Yeah.
And at the end of last season, I was exceptionally fortunate to be offered the opportunity to go and watch the last match against Manchester City. So that's the first time I've been. It's the only time up to now, but I'm definitely going back. I was given a really good opportunity to stand amongst the supporters at that match, and it was amazing. The stadium, everything about it, the crowd. The only thing I said to my friend at the time was, I don't think I could have played on that stadium. It's on a weekly basis, or 2 weekly basis. I just found it just appeared to me that everybody was too far away from the crowd, from the players, and the players from the crowd. And that's probably a reflection on playing at Upton Park. You know, it was wonderful, and the team were fabulous and everything else. I just don't think I could have enjoyed playing there. But who knows? It's a different time.
Yeah, I mean, it's a completely different stadium, isn't it? I mean, let's be honest. Upton Park Bowling Ground was a purpose-built football stadium, very old school, very tight. I mean, when you played in the 80s, it was obviously quite different to how it was when we left in 2016. Obviously, Bobby Moore stand was redeveloped, the Rio stand or the Alpari stand, whatever they called it, the Centenary stand. They were all stands that were put in place after your career finished. So obviously the ground changed even in that span of time. But back in the days when you played in the 80s, it was really tight onto the pitch, the stands, weren't they? You literally touch the fans.
Yes, absolutely. That was it. I from recollection, I'm almost convinced we didn't have ball boys or girls at Upton Park because the crowd was so close. They just lean over, pick the ball up, and give it up to you. So yeah, you're correct. You're right up against it, and that's part of what I really enjoyed about playing there.
Fair. Duke, we got anything more in the live chat?
Plenty, absolutely plenty. So Mark's first comment, then we've got. Well, obviously we've covered this. You didn't play in Scotland, but do you follow or support a Scottish team?
Large glass of water and a large deep breath. That's an awful question. Before growing up, I supported Glasgow Rangers. This might sound a long, drawn-out answer to your question, but it's not really. So until I was about 13, 14, I used to go and watch Glasgow Rangers every Saturday or weekday. But when I started playing serious football, Saturday amateurs, I stopped going. I then ended up at Sheffield United, and I was an apprentice, and I walked into the reserve team changing room to collect up boots, and a chap didn't know me because I'd only been there a week. He was Scottish, and he said, he came straight out of the question. He said, "Do you support a Glasgow team?" I said, "Yes." He said, "Well, you don't anymore because that doesn't happen in England. Forget all about your Scottish connections to football. You just play for Sheffield United." And from that day on, I have never followed Scottish football.
Really?
Yeah. I now live back in Glasgow, and as it happens, interestingly enough, in the summer, I got an opportunity to go to Ibrox again to watch West Ham, and I stood in amongst the West Ham supporters, cheering on West Ham. So unfortunately, Rangers won. So, but no, I don't have an affiliation to a Scottish team now, not at all.
Fair enough. We've got another video question for Tom, Duke.
Yeah, we have. Let me go in. This one is from Steve 50. Let's go.
Hi, Tom. Steve 50 here. My question is quite a simple one. What do you think was the most important save you made when playing for West Ham? Thanks very much.
The most important save.
So one of us thinks that's a simple question. One of us doesn't. Guess who doesn't? Blimey! This sounds like an avoidance answer. Every save's the most important. But at the last season I played, we played Liverpool. Liverpool were running away. Well, at the start of the season, we played them at home. We drew 1-1, and I made some, what for me I thought were great saves. The return match at the end of the season at Anfield, Liverpool had already, I think they'd won the league, but they needed to beat us to actually get the championship, and we were sort of fourth from bottom, third from bottom, or something like that. So we needed the points, and I had one of those games goalkeepers can have at Anfield. And everything just went my way. So a handful of saves at that match, I would say were the most important saves I made for West Ham. But as I say, every save a goalkeeper makes is important to himself. So that's how I see it.
Do you know what? It's funny because I've got a funny thing. I hope you're going to appreciate this, Tom.
Knew this was coming at this
Oh,
moment.
listen. Never let it be said that I don't make our guests feel appreciated and welcome. Tom, I hope you'll be able to bear with me. This is 2 minutes and 18 seconds of your life.
Okay.
And this might bring back a few memories, hopefully some good ones. Was that the Liverpool game right at the end?
Yes.
I thought it might be brought back some nice memories. Did it?
Yeah. As for the rest of them, I think you've had somebody imitating me.
No, it was definitely you.
Right.
I've checked. It was definitely you.
Was it the Forest game, Rob? The big one-handed
1-on-1 that to the left. Yeah,
big one-handed save, banging save. I have to say, most of the footage there does look like it was recorded underwater using a hairdryer, Rob.
Yeah.
I won't lie, just how far we've
that's
come.
not my fault, guys. That's not my fault. That's just old 80s footage. What can you do? It's before it wasn't 4K HD. It is what it is. But I just thought it was nice.
I was happy with it anyway.
As I say, I thought I'd put that together just as a little little tribute to you. I thought you might enjoy that. It was some cracking saves there, mate. Honestly.
Yeah. I don't think I could do them now.
Mate, I couldn't do them in my prime, let alone now.
Yeah, some cracking saves there, it has to be said. Any more questions in the live chat, Duke?
You ain't got to keep asking me that, Rob. There's bloody loads. They're loving life in a minute. I think we've got 18 sitting in there, and most of them are in there from Mark. Actually going to throw this one in from Mark. He remembers you suffering a quite serious injury at QPR. Do you recall the events at the time? Oh.
Sorry. Somebody's just watched that video, I think.
Yeah, so do you remember the events around the injury that you sustained at QPR?
Yeah. do you want me to go through?
No, come on.
No. Well, it's back in the. They always say goalkeepers are so well protected. They say it these days, and they said it back then. I've got to be honest. I've had so many injuries through physical contact that I don't think goalkeepers are that. Maybe now, I don't play now. But that situation was, from recollection, it was a free kick to QPR. And whoever took it hoisted it in way up high. And one of the things that if I say so myself, I was okay at was taking crosses. It never bothered me. And I just came out, took that, and Stevie Wicks, for whatever thoughts were going through his head, decided to elbow me in the ribs. And the rest goes from there. Broke about 3 ribs and punctured my lung.
Ouch.
So, and apart from that, I landed on AstroTurf as well. Didn't make it easy.
I landed on concrete.
Yeah. So that's what that injury was all about. And after that, I spent a week in hospital, getting my lungs blowing up and my ribs repaired. But hey, it goes with the territory, I suppose. Did
you ever talk to him afterwards? Was there ever a conversation like, what do you think you were doing? Was there any of that?
No. Never heard. Nothing at all. I don't know whether I expected to hear anything. He probably just thought it was a challenge and unfortunate collision. But no, I didn't hear anything. But it doesn't matter.
No, I just think just one of them. Even just to check you're okay. I suppose it's again, it's a different type of game nowadays, isn't it? That there's obviously the access of being able to like phone call, like being able to get people's phone numbers nowadays. Within a club, you can contact someone and then they can put you through. I suppose it was slightly different back then.
Well, I mean, going back thousands of years when I was at Sheffield United and I broke my leg, Rodney Marsh broke my leg. I don't say I got my leg broken. I'm putting this out, everyone knows. Rodney Marsh broke my leg. And to this day, I've never heard a word of any description from Rodney Marsh. So it was the same back then in the 70s as it was in the 80s, and don't know what happens these days. So, yeah, that's the way it is.
I'm just, looking out for I suppose, in my mind, the thoughts of a fellow professional, you especially in that sense, with a punctured lung and everything else, even a broken leg, just checking that someone's okay. You might not have. Well, you say he broke your leg. I mean, with the ribs, kind of, even if they were accidental, just reaching out and making sure that a fellow professional's okay. I mean, that's me. That's what I would have thought would have happened. But obviously, I'm wrong.
Well, perhaps
it happens to tell me I'm quite often, so it's okay.
No, I can't say that happens all the time. That people just ignore what happens to certain events. It's just the way it was with me. Perhaps I was unlucky with 2 people that I was involved with. I don't know.
Okay, so we've got another question in the video section, I believe, from Jazz. Is that right, Duke?
Yes. Let me hunt down Jazz. Where you gone, Jazz? There you are.
Not literally. He's not going to hunt you down, Jazz, if you're watching this. He's not going to literally come after you.
I might. I know the road he lives in, just down the road from Legoland at Windsor. I know where he lives. It's fine.
Hi Tom, it's Jazz from the West Ham Irons channel. I wanted to ask you, in that 84-85 season where you got a really good run in the team, do you remember that home 0-0 draw with Nottingham Forest that was kind of shown? I think it was on ITV back in those days, and you were clearly man of the match. Just one of those performances a goalkeeper has now and again in their career, and I think you wore a baseball cap. I think there was quite a lot of sunlight, but yeah, do you remember that game? You were extraordinary, 10 out of 10 performance, mate. Apart from that, thank you for your time at West Ham. All I have to say is when you did play, you didn't let anyone down and you were very, very good. And it's very hard being number 2 to Phil Parkes, but you performed the role really well. So, yeah, good luck. Hope all is well. Come on, you Irons. Take care.
Okay. Well, first of all, I'd like to say thank you very much to that gentleman for his kind words to me. Very important. The match itself that he's talking about, there's only one thing I actually remember about that game. A couple of people have mentioned it to me, but I don't recollect much of what happened in the game. The only thing I do know, and I'm letting the cat out of the bag a little bit here, as I was walking off the pitch after the game, Brian Clough came onto the pitch shook my hand, said, "Well played, young man. That was fabulous. If you ever want to join me, I'm here." And that was but that was just
Tapping
like
up back in the day.
yeah, just over my head. I wasn't going anywhere. And it was Brian Clough, so you never know. But,
That's a very high praise indeed, though.
That's all I remember about that match, in all honesty.
It passed you by in a blur.
Yep, like most things have.
Well, Jazz clearly remembers it. He, as he said, a 10 out of 10 performance, as he put it. And to be fair to Jazz, he's not someone that I think dishes out praise lightly. So you obviously made an impression on him.
I'll take him for his word, and I'm very thankful for him telling me that.
I will. I'm sure he'll watch this, whether he's watching this live or not. I'm not sure, but I will make sure I'll pass that on to him, Tom. No problem
Thank
at
you.
all. Duke, live chat.
I'm actually going to take Happy's final question that she's just put in, Rob, because obviously, Tom, you touched on artificial surfaces, obviously with the injury to the QPR at the QPR game, or for QPR. She says here about obviously playing on the artificial pitches. How different was it underfoot, and was it detrimental to obviously the way you played?
Okay. Well, as I said, that was back then. It was more or less at the beginning of AstroTurf, or artificial pitches as they call them. So they weren't really the best thing in the world. But I didn't find them too bad. If we were ever going to play on an Astro pitch, John would take us somewhere down Colchester area, somewhere I don't know, and we train on an Astro pitch for a week to get used to everything. So by the time the match came, the only thing I noticed with the bounce of the ball, the outfield players thought the ball bounced very high, but I thought the ball coming towards me never bounced at all. So most things just stayed in the ground. We were well padded up as a goalkeeper. Well, I was anyway. And I don't mean by fat. I just mean by padded stuff. Some people might beg to differ on that. So getting up and down on it wasn't really much of a problem to me. Just maybe the speed of the ball off the ground, that was about it. But once the game starts, you're not looking for any excuses, whether it's AstroTurf or grass or mud. You just go on with what's there in front of you and take it from that.
Yeah, they're completely different to the pitches now down at goals, aren't they, Duke?
Yeah, the artificial pitches now are more like a rubber crumb. They have more of a natural bounce to them. I do believe one of the companies, or the pitches that I used to play on, came from a company that actually originated in Scotland, company called Goals, and the bounce. I mean, I've played on both. I never slide tackle on the old school AstroTurf. That would have been what you played on. I think it was, Luton had one as well, didn't they, Rob? And it was,
They did. And Preston.
that kind of sandy covered carpet is the only way I can describe it. And if you slid on one of those, you actually needed 3 weeks in hospital where you had to have skin grafts on your leg.
Yeah.
I think that's why you goalkeepers used to wear padded tracksuit bottoms on those surfaces, if I remember rightly, Tom.
That's right, yeah. But something's just come to my mind there. A long time ago when I played at Chadwell Hayes training ground, our indoor gymnasium was AstroTurf. So unbeknown to us, we were actually playing on it all the time, but only in sort of 3-a-side, 4-a-side games. So it was something common, but we weren't aware of it in that respect.
Fair enough. Like I say, I didn't enjoy it. I mean, even to be fair though, I played a few games in goal on the rubber crumb, and I think the only downside to that was it got everywhere
in your boots.
Not just your boots, Rob. It
really, I know.
I used to come home and get changed, and Joe. I mean, Joe, Rob. She doesn't tend to hold back on anything she says, and I'd get undressed in the go to the bathroom, get changed, and you take your socks off, you take your shirt off. I always wore a pair of the old Nike Pro shorts, and you'd end up with piles of the rubber just in the bathroom everywhere. It got everywhere. It was that was the only downside to that. I mean, like I say, they both had their downsides. You had skin grafts, or spending 3 weeks removing bits of rubber from places that they really shouldn't get into.
I think I'd sooner take the latter than the former. Thank you very much.
Well, I don't know. Sounds a bit like beach volleyball to me.
I don't mind watching beach volleyball.
I saw the Olympics; it was quite good.
Exactly. Yeah, I'm leaving that one there. You can fill in the blanks. What we got in the live chat, my friend?
Live chat. I've got actually another one from Jazz. I think it's a tongue-in-cheek one, but we're going to go with it anyway. He wants to know if you like haggis or or Scotch eggs, Tom.
Crikey. You're hanging me out to dry here, aren't you?
We're not. It's them.
He did give you a 10 out of 10 performance, in fairness. This is Jazz
so
who...
He deserves an answer then.
So.
Of the two, it would be haggis. And there you are. And it's not because I'm a Scots nationalist or anything like that, and haggis is a national dish. It's just that I prefer the taste of that to the other. That's all. Not in abundance, just a little bit now, maybe once a year or something.
This is a question to Duke. Have you ever had haggis? You haven't. I have.
Yeah.
I have.
I don't think I ever could, Rob. I'm not going to lie to you.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
I thought it was okay. If you think too much about, what it actually is that goes into it, then you probably would think twice. But sometimes in life, you just got to dive in, Duke.
Absolutely. That goes for a lot of stuff, doesn't it? Yeah.
Duke, what's the worst that could happen? Seriously.
It goes back on the plate as quickly as it came off it, Rob. I'm not going to like it. I'll tell you a quick story of when I was probably about 9 years old. My mum cooked me a roast dinner. This is how phobic I am of that, I suppose, if you will. Had cabbage on my Sunday roast. And she's trying to force feed me. It came back all over the dinner table. So no. That's why I say it would. No, I'm terrible for that. I couldn't even.
If I put it on a plate in front of you and didn't tell you what it was,
that door there,
didn't tell you what it was, you'd tuck into it, you'd be fine, and then I'd turn around to you afterwards and tell you what you just eaten, and then you go, oh. Tell him, Tom. Honestly, he needs to try it at least once before he shuffles off this mortal coil.
That might even be the time I shuffle. That might even be the time I shuffle, Rob. My mouth, I'm done.
Oh dear. Have we got another video question for Tom there, Duke?
I was actually going to quickly go with another message in the live chat. This one from Claret and Booze, actually. He wants to know who was the toughest striker you faced. Now, you alluded earlier, obviously, the broken leg and Rodney Marsh. Does he kind of fit into that category, or was there someone else that gave you a not necessarily with an injury or anything like that, but really gave you a torrid time as a striker? Coming out for crosses and giving you a little nudge here and there, trying to take you off balance, coming in a bit harder in the challenges, or even just a player that really did have your number when you played and you just couldn't get the better of them, and they always tended to find the back of the net.
Okay. So I'd have to go back again to my days at Sheffield United. I know this is about West Ham, but to answer that question, the most difficult centre forward I played against then was Derek Dugan, the Duke. He was he knocked me around a couple of times. He actually gave me another rib injury that I got taken off at half time with. I didn't know he'd done it. It was just, but he did it because he apologised to me just as I was getting taken off. He just said, "Sorry, young man, but that's my job to do these things," But he was a lovely man. But I would say going that far back, he was the most difficult. To my time at West Ham, I don't really know. Nobody upset me that much or made my life deliberately difficult in my face so that I knew about it. So no, that's the only person that I can bring to mind that I realised I was in a match against. You know, a big tough centre forward who knew what he was doing. So that's that one.
Well, you say that. I mean, we had Psycho on a week or just over a week, Rob, wasn't it? A week or two ago, 2 weeks.
2-3 weeks.
Because obviously, last week was obviously the news that we had of Queen Elizabeth, and he did mention actually, didn't he, Rob, about with goalkeepers going in and letting them know that he was there, and if it meant that they what was the words he used, if they got injured off the back of a challenge that he went and put in, because obviously back then there were no keepers. There was no subs. It was more no keepers. It was a case of an outfield player had to go in goal, which then obviously made his day a little bit easier. You say there about the strikers came up to you and said, sorry, but that's my job. It just reminded me of obviously what Crossy told us a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah, but the thing about that situation was I was 19 starting out and he was well on his way, so he was sort of he was giving me a lesson.
He was letting you know what was to come. Yeah,
so it was all right. He's one person I didn't hold a grudge against, because as I said, I didn't even know what he had done to me and how he'd managed to do it. It's just one of those things. But I can
try to apologise as well.
Yeah, but I can picture Crossy I can imagine him telling you that, because fabulous.
He told us a lot more than just that, Rob, didn't he?
oh yes. I'll tell you what. I got to say, Tom, I absolutely adore David Cross. I think he's such a funny man.
Yeah, well, that's I wasn't fortunate enough to play. I don't know if I played any matches with him. I played against him that last match of the season, but
I can actually tell you played your debut for West Ham with the team.
Oh, hold 1 second.
Yep, he's checking.
Yep. Right. Yep. Someone kindly sent me a poster of that match in the team. So yeah, but I've been in a few social events with Crossy, and I could just stand next to him at a bar and listen to him all night.
We got 3 hours. We got 3 hours with Crossy, and I do believe if his missus hadn't told him off, and we didn't cut him short, I think we'd probably still be going now, Rob, with the stories and everything else he had. He was, as who is it that says, where is it from?
I think it was Mark.
Mark at the very end there. He says David Cross deserves a slot at the Edinburgh Fringe, but who else were the dressing room comedians when you were at the club? Who was the class clown, shall we say?
Ooh, it was a mixed dressing room. There were the ones who had a wry sense of humour, and you had to listen hard to understand what they were getting at. But there weren't too many out-and-out comedians as such. Not really. Tonker, I suppose, Ray Stewart. He was the funny guy, but mostly for practical joke type things, as opposed to what he would say. I can't recall anybody who was out and out a comedian as such. I understand the terminology, not a stand-up comedian, but someone who's making everybody laugh. No one really comes to mind, but there were a few characters in there that could come out with a few wry sentences. Yeah.
Well, again, from David, he told us a story about Stuart, didn't he, Rob? About Tonka with was it the sunbed?
Oh, the sunbed. Yes.
When he was, he told him that he could only go on the sunbed for 30 seconds. Was it twice a week, Rob? I think it was twice.
Something like
once
that.
or twice a week. He'd only be allowed on there for 30 seconds at a time. And when Tonka would go into the changing room after a game or after training, all the players who were in on it would be going, "Oh, mate, you're getting nice and brown." He's going, "Yeah, I'm just because I'm using Psycho's sunbed. It's you really think I'm going brown?" And he was literally only on it for 30 seconds at a time. Yeah. And I mean, yeah, again, the stories that man told, I was crying. I was in absolute fits of laughter.
Yeah, I think I could sit and listen to Crossy for a long time too.
He was outstanding. Right, video question, Rob. Well, yep. I'm going in now. This one we're going to come in from Budgie. Budgie's another one of us that has his own YouTube channel over at Green Street Elites. This one's this is Budgie.
Hi there, Budgie here. Got a question for Tom Mcalister. In training while you were at West Ham, you would have faced shots from just about every player in the squad. Who was the hardest shooting player at West Ham while you were there? Thanks.
Okay. I don't think there's any argument over that. That's got to be Ray Stewart. I've throughout my career, I've faced people, Peter Lorimer, Alan Woodward, back in the days in the very early 70s at Leeds and Sheffield United. I've never known anybody hit a ball like Tonka from wherever. Whether it was if it was shooting practice and he was in 80 yards from you, he'd still hit it as hard as he just wanted to get out of the way of it. And that reflects on his penalty kicks. So to answer that gentleman's question, I would say Ray Stewart, without a doubt. Sorry, the other one that comes to my mind was Stevie Whitten. And Stevie, if he could be bothered at training to do it, and he put his mind to it, yeah, he could hammer a ball as well. But I think Ray takes it easily. Yeah.
Did you ever face a penalty in training from Tonka? Did you ever be on the receiving end of one of those?
No, I don't actually believe that he practiced penalties that much.
Story I heard,
if he did, it wasn't with me, that's for sure. But I think they probably put one of the young apprentice goalkeepers or somebody who was stupid enough to face him, but no, I never used to practice penalties against Ray or Ray against me.
The story that I heard was that he never actually practiced penalties with a goalkeeper in goal. The story I heard is he would put like a traffic cone just inside the post and he would aim for that, just bang, 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 and just hit it. He never actually practiced with a goalkeeper, from my understanding.
Yeah, that sounds feasible, because as I said, I certainly didn't practice him taking penalties against me. And it wasn't something that we were called over to do, so perhaps what he's telling you there is what he did. But whatever he did, it made it work, didn't it? So,
did you ever face any sort of like, because obviously towards the back end of your time at West Ham, someone that was starting their career at West Ham was a certain Julian Dix. Do you have any recollection facing any of his sort of bullets? Right.
Okay. Bearing in mind it's too many years ago for my liking when I left West Ham. It's been a long time, sadly. Julian, I was thinking about this before last week when I got an invite. I recall Julian being around and what he was and how good he was and all the rest of it. I don't recall any of what you're asking, penalty kicks from Julian or anything like that. My memory of, I don't know if I played with Julian, to be perfectly honest with you. I might have played 1 or 2 games, but my memory of him was just what he was. What you saw with Julian was what you got, which was fabulous. I don't recall facing any shots from a man like that.
Fair. I've actually got it here just because you mentioned it there. You actually played your last game for West Ham with Julian in the lineup, which was a 3-1 home defeat against Charlton Athletic on the 3rd of September, 88.
I don't recall. No, seriously, I don't recall.
That's fine.
But that's it.
I did my due diligence, Tom. I've got your first match, I've got your last match, I've got all the matches. I'm actually looking at every single match here on a spreadsheet that you played, which, if my maths are correct, totaled exactly in all competitions 100.
Yes, I didn't know that until I went to an event and someone mentioned it to me. So, yeah, sounds good from my point of view. From someone who went there on a free transfer to be understudy to Big Phil, and that was get a chance and take my chance. 100, I'll settle for 100 games at West Ham. There's not many people wouldn't. That's for sure.
Mate, I'll be happy with one.
I'd have been happy with 100 seconds coming off of the bench in a game that was already won or lost. I'd be like, yeah, that's fine. Even if it was some footballing backwater, like, I don't know, Millwall.
No. Well, can I just say something from a personal point of view? My whole time at West Ham was just incredible. Whether I was playing the reserves with the young players, playing the first team, whatever training. There's one thing that I don't forget, but I very, very, very rarely bring it out. I actually captained West Ham for one match at Upton Park.
Okay.
I think it was the game that you showed on the video there against Coventry. That it seems Coventry sticks out in my mind.
Okay.
It was a scenario where Alvin was the captain and he was injured. Billy was sort of on the, he was on his deciding whether he played or didn't play. He was choosing his game, so he was no longer the captain on the pitch. In the club, he was. Tonka was vice captain, which you had in those days, and he was injured. So John, Mr. Lyle, asked Liam Brady to captain the side for that day. And you look and think, wow, that's not a bad choice for third captain, is it? And Liam said, no, it's not. That's not what he does. It's not in his nature. And I was standing next to him, just getting ready. And he said, make Tommy the captain. And I didn't take it on board at first. And I thought, what? And John says, okay, Tom, you're captain today. And that was an experience. And sometimes when I do reflect, which isn't all of the time, to be perfectly honest, football was what I did and I loved it, but I don't sit and dream about pastimes. Sometimes that's the one thing I think, there are not too many people around who captained West Ham. I know there's hundreds, but I was one of them. And that's probably the proudest moment in my life. And that's the truth. That's, and I played international football. So, but that one match captain in West Ham.
Can't be bad.
So that stands out.
Excellent.
I'll take that one to bed with me tonight.
Former West Ham captain Tom Mcalister. I thought I'd done my due diligence on you, Tom, but that piece of information did escape me.
Yeah, it's not one I talk about. And there you are.
Nice one. Duke, what else you got for Tom? Oh, you're on mute, matey.
Sorry, it was
a new microphone. Look what you're doing.
It was the local blues and twos that were going past, so I had to mute me mic so we didn't hear that. I was going to say I've got a familiar face, Tom, one that Tom might recognise with a video question. There we go.
Hi everybody, Russ from the West Ham Network. My question to Mr. Mcalister is, did you have any superstitions, any pre-match rituals you did every game? Put your left glove on instead of your right one first, or were you the last one out of the dressing room or anything like that?
Yeah, right, okay. The, no, the only superstition, if it is a superstition, I always took my own shin pads home after a match and brought them back because I wanted to make sure I got my own shin pads. And also, this sounds a bit, there's a word up in Scotland, it's called manky, right? It just means a bit dirty. Well, a lot.
I know, Mikey. Yeah.
Right, okay. Well, we used to have back in the day bandages to hold your tie-ups to keep your socks up. So I got issued. You make your own. You cut a bandage up and use it. And I used to use the same one throughout the whole season. So the state of that bandage, those bandages were, throughout the season, you're playing in mud, you're playing in rain, you're playing whatever you're playing in, and all the rest of it. And you've got all the oils on your legs and things. So that was probably the only superstition I had, was using the same shin pads and tie-ups, but they were a bit grubby by the end of the season.
I bet they were alive.
I didn't tie them; they tied themselves. You know what I mean?
Oh,
I love that.
That was
brilliant.
No, that's fair enough. I've got a question here because before he has another meltdown, Rob, I'm going to ask one of Cyber's questions. He wants to know what your thoughts. What were your thoughts I'm going to go with on Mark Noble retiring, and obviously what the club have lost since he stepped down.
Okay. Well, that's a question because I only ever saw Mark Noble play one time, and that was his last match, which I was so fortunate. I was so fortunate to get there and witness what was going on. So obviously I understood exactly what his achievements were. And the only comparison I can make, and I don't know if it's a fair comparison, is Billy Bonds. Because I had the privilege of playing with Bonzo, and I hadn't seen Mark play football. I'd heard about him, obviously a fantastic achievement. But when I saw him come on for that one game, I could understand what it was about. Obviously, from what he had done, the association with the supporters and everything else about it. So a wonderful achievement. I just think for anybody to do that's amazing, but for somebody to do it at West Ham with the abilities and character of him, that's great.
And obviously, football in the intervening years, from obviously your career finishing to Mark Noble's career finishing, it's changed. I mean, I remember hearing on certain interviews where it was stated that at West Ham, virtually every year for a sort of like a sequence of seasons was a testimonial year. It'd be this player would have a testimonial this year, then a year later it'd be someone else having a testimonial, so on and so on and so on. The days of players A, having a testimonial, and B, being a club for the entirety of their professional career, it's very few and far between now, isn't it?
Yes, I think both those reasons answer the question. Players these days, from my observations, don't tend to want to be around a club for too long, for professional, financial, whatever it is. The days of someone wanting to stay at a club for 10 years back in my time for a testimonial. I think those days have long gone. You won't get too many Martin Nobles or Alvin Martins or Billy Bonds anymore. I've had this discussion with someone else that players aren't in. I'm not in it, and maybe I shouldn't say this, but I don't think players are in it for the loyalty, unless you get the odd one or two players at a club like West Ham, Rice and people like that. But the majority of players these days, I think they know it's a short-term fix. They can use something for a few years and then go somewhere else. And the rewards are obviously better for them to do that. That's my take on it.
Yeah, I agree, Tom. It's obviously it's a different era now. I mean, the sums of money that you're hearing some of these players getting, I mean, some of them are sort of, I mean, I think Alexis Sanchez, when he was at Manchester United, I heard a figure of £500,000 a week. I don't know if that was correct or incorrect, but it was. It's just a mind-boggling amount of money. I mean, it's ridiculous. I know it's a short career, and I know that there's a lot of money that the broadcasters put into the game. But honestly, that is ridiculous.
I believe so. But I suppose in any profession, if someone offers you X amount of money, the more the better. That's one way to look at it. But the sacrifices, supposedly, the sacrifices these players have to go through to earn that sort of money is not something I can't say it's not something I wouldn't do, but I certainly don't think I could do it. You know, football's a game, and you've got to enjoy what you're doing. You've got to have fun doing it, and not be, again, going back to my West Ham days, not being told that you can't go to the pub for a drink, you know, because somebody's going to tell a newspaper or tell, you know.
Everyone's got a camera phone.
Yeah, so all the money in the world, I don't know if it would be as enjoyable. I'm not saying I wouldn't do it, because I'd be a mad person to say that, but I don't think the enjoyment would be there. You know, that's it.
And I think that the modern footballer is far removed from the average supporter. You know, I mean, I dare say back in your day, Tom, if I might be so bold as to say, it probably wouldn't be that unusual to have fans, you know, coming up to you and having access to you and having a chat and one thing and another. Whereas I don't think that the modern fan really has that level of access to their players.
I think you're 100% correct there. Back in the time when I was playing, people would stop you in the road. You know, you're crossing the road or having a coffee, and it was fine. It's what it was about. It was part and parcel of. It was the deal of the job. If I saw a professional, top class football player today, not that I'd recognise too many, to be truthful, I wouldn't go up and ask for his autograph or ask how he was or anything like that. You know, it's just a completely different time. But I loved it. I was once told at the very beginning of my career, the ex Sheffield United goalkeeper, I was signing autographs and I was having a little moan up, and he says, "Tom," to me, he says, "Tom, the day they stop asking you for your autographs is the day you'll miss it." He said, "From that day on, you'll want people to ask you for your autograph and talk to you," and it's true. You know, it's it was part and parcel of the game. It was part of the fun of it. But I don't think these players these days are accessible in that way. Also, I think they'd all sell they sell their autographs. You know, it's I don't know. It's just a different time, different place. But they must enjoy doing what they're doing, and they got on with their lives like that.
Yeah, fair. I think we got another video question, or do you want to go for the live chat, Duke? Where do you want to go?
I'm actually going to go live chat again, Rob, because we still got quite a few in there. So I want to try and rattle a few of these off while we can. Mark says that you played during times of unrest on the terraces. Was this ever a problem for you as a goalkeeper? He imagines there were many distractions at the time.
Okay. You're like not just goalkeepers, but the players. They're all, I wouldn't say they're trained to ignore it. It's like a second nature. Just don't try not to get involved with it, unless it actually physically gets to you. Which, funny. It's not. It wasn't funny at the time. It's funny now, and it makes me laugh. Talk about missiles, etc., and flares getting thrown onto the pitch. One of the times I was playing for Rotherham at Walsall, and that was another ground where the goals were right on top of the terraces. And someone decided in their wisdom to launch a half house break at me. So that was a way back then. And that hit me in the head. But it just made me more stupid. But didn't really damage me. But no, I've never never really been involved with crowd trouble or taken any notice of it, or actually can say to you I was on a pitch when it happened. I can go back again and tell you one story if you don't mind.
Absolutely.
Please.
Again, when I was at Sheffield United, and they talk about these days about crowd pitch invasions that didn't happen and all of this. I was fortunate enough to play in Bobby Charlton's final match at Old Trafford. And it was a night match. And it was a night match. And we beat them 2-1. But as the game was coming to an end, I could see everybody moving up to the far corner towards the tunnel. And the referee was moving up and everybody was just like getting ready to go off. And I thought, what? And then it clicked. So I managed to get to sort of the 18-yard box, and the whistle went and I set off as fast as I could run. But no, by the time I got to the halfway line, I was swamped by Man United supporters. Whatever you think can happen to you happened to me. And I got off the pitch eventually. And to his credit, Sir Matt Busby actually came into me and apologised. But that's as close as I've been involved to crowd trouble. But it was a way, way, way back in 1971, something like that. But I've never been associated with any sort of crowd trouble since then. Not that I'm aware of. You might come up with some historic fact that I have been. I don't know.
No, Rob.
No. That's an interesting little. So you played in the last match that Sir Bobby Charlton, as he is now, played at Old Trafford. That's
it was his last match at Old Trafford. I think he had one more match after that. But that was his last match at Old Trafford, yeah.
Wow.
But again, just doing this sort of thing, Rob, little things come to my head that I've forgotten all about, and something you say will spark a memory, and which is all right most of the time.
Nice. There you go. Right. What else you got for Tom then, Duke?
I'm actually going to bring one of Paul's videos up. He's got two more left. So we'll drop Paul's second question. Here we go.
Oh, hi, Tom. Hi, it's Paul again. A quick question really about your relationship with Phil Parks. Obviously, you're part of the Goalkeepers Union, as it's known. What was that like? Was there a friendly rivalry, a healthy competition? Did you sort of spur one another on, give each other tips at all? Were there times wherever, perhaps you felt that you should have retained your place in the starting 11 but didn't, and maybe you felt aggrieved? I don't know. So I'd like to know about your relationship with Phil Parks as goalkeepers and how that was. Thanks a lot.
Okay, that's a good question. It's a lovely question. People can believe what I say, or they can choose to disbelieve it or whatever. My relationship with Phil was fabulous. It doesn't have to be, but people could bear in mind that I was an experienced goalkeeper when I went to West Ham. I also understood that I was getting an unbelievable opportunity to join a club, but I also knew about Phil. We both grew up in the same era, under 23 internationals, etc., etc., etc. So I had no hesitation about joining a club knowing Phil was number one. We didn't fall out. We didn't argue. We just laughed at each other in training because it was damned hard work with Uncle Ernie Gregory. So we had nothing but, I don't know if I'm talking from my point of view. I'm not talking from Phil's point of view, but I would believe what I'd say works both ways. Nothing but respect for each other. We both worked hard. We helped each other at training. We did everything that we had to do. I was never envious of Phil playing and I wasn't, because that was the deal that was sent to me. I got an opportunity and I took it. Sadly, because Phil got injured at the time, not for any other reason. And I don't recall Phil ever knocking on or being told he knocked on John's door to get back in the side. He just waited, and after every match on Monday morning, we'd be talking about the game. So yeah, Phil and I had a fabulous relationship in goalkeeping together, and as people, some good night outs with him as well. So I'd like to say we're still good buddies. And I did meet up with him at a reunion just over a year ago. And it was just like 30 years ago. We were fine. It was great.
Good,
The Goalkeepers Union.
I love a Goalkeepers Union.
Well, I can. I have been at some places and I thought, there's no union here between him and me. But that's different time. But not with Paxi. It's just a true gentleman. That's just it. So.
I'm just looking here, Tom. You made your debut, as we said earlier, at St Andrews against Birmingham City in a 2-2 draw in League Division 1. You played 4 matches in your debut season, and then your next match came and about 3 years later. Was there ever any point in that intervening 3 years where you didn't see any first team action? Where was there ever a possibility of maybe even a loan move away from Upton Park or anything like that?
Well, my immediate response to that question was why would there be? Based on the fact that I've been given such an opportunity to represent such a club at my age and my situation, my career. John, I recall one occasion that John called me into the office after a reserve match. I think it was a Thursday afternoon. And he mentioned that Aberdeen were interested in taking me on loan because they were playing in Europe and their goalkeeper was injured.
This would have been under Sir Alex Ferguson, wouldn't it?
No, I think no, possibly. I possibly, but he looks at me. He gave me one of those looks just to say, "Well, I've told you the opportunity's there, but if you take it, you're an idiot." Right. So, yeah. So that's the only time that I recall. And I had no intentions. If John had come to me and says, "Tom, you've done your stint here, it's time for you to move," I'd have said, "Okay, thank you very much," and see what happened. But that's the only I would have left West Ham, whether I was in the first team or not. That's how much the club means to me.
Wow. I mean, I just, that's mind blowing to me that, you, like I say, you've had 3 years essentially of no first team action and you had no intention of moving on. And whether that's testament to your love of the club or, that it was just a different era that different standards apply. I don't know, but, I take my hat off to you because I think there's many footballers that I think would have possibly looked and gone, this isn't for me. But as I say, I can only commend you on your loyalty, sir.
Well, Robert, it wasn't always like that in my previous career. Well, past times in my career. I was at some clubs where I was just desperate to get out. I'd have done anything to get out, whether I was playing or whether I wasn't. Unfortunately, I managed to wangle a couple of those to my, benefit. But you arrive at a club like West Ham, certainly back then, it's a completely different world. It was just like somebody's putting a light switch on. The club, the setup, the people, the staff, the management, everybody. You just think, well, why have I not been at a club like this for the rest of my previous career? So it's just something special about them. I don't know if there are many players who volunteered to leave the Hammers of their own accord when I was there. Maybe they did, maybe they didn't for different reasons, but it wasn't in my mind. Never.
No, that's
I won't lie to you, Rob. I don't know whether you feel the same, mate, but to hear, players like Tom tonight and David a few weeks ago, and we've obviously had Stuart Slater has been on, and obviously we had Tony Carr. But to hear players talk about their love, even now, the fact that that the club still they still hold the club, like you just said there, Tom. Still hold that club as close to your heart. I can see the stuff in the background behind you. The London Stadium sign and the other bits there. just to hear former players speak so highly, Rob, of the club and their love and their love of the time there, it makes me smile. It makes me feel so happy that's they're kind of, it's the club still the forefront of your like in your heart and every mind as well.
But can I just interject slightly there?
Absolutely.
Things that made me and the other players that I was with happy has got a hell of a lot to do with people like you two, the supporters. Because now I'm not saying that because I'm looking at you on screen and I'm talking to you, but that's the interaction back in the time the players and the supporters had.
Yeah.
You know, even I always say the chicken run because they make me laugh. But after the game, you'd still have a drink, a beer with them and shake their hand and have a laugh about the game. So the supporter I found, again, I'm telling you, I've played for some, inverted commas, clubs that you wouldn't cross the road to have a drink with a supporter. But the supporters at West Ham, certainly my time, and for me, were a heck of a lot to do with what made that club happy and made the club as it is. And I would imagine it's still the same.
So. Yeah, I think that's the one thing that for me is always a constant in that the fans are always, they're at their core a working class bunch of fans that will support their club. I'd love to say through thick and thin, but it's probably been thin and thinner if we're being completely honest about it. And they still go home games, away games, come wind, rain, shine, and they're there singing songs. I mean, just one thing. I mean, what was it? 2 years after you left the club, I think this would have happened. And this is always something that I just still got this little image in my head of the FA Cup semi-final at Villa Park. We're getting smashed 4-0 by Nottingham Forest. We're down to 10 men. And all I can see and all I can hear is West Ham fans bouncing up and down, singing Billy Bond's Claret and Blue Army. I mean, that's proper support. And as you say, that's what... In your day, you must have got so much out of that sort of level of devotion to you guys.
Yes, absolutely. And I think every player appreciated it. I don't recall any player ever, you may have got someone come on saying, "Oh, they gave me a lot of abuse today," and in the spur of the moment they're upset, but then it's gone. I don't think there was any player there who hated the supporters, hated playing in front of them. They just loved them because there was such an accessibility.
Yeah.
How can I say this? On a Friday morning, for example, the supporters were allowed to come to the training ground and come into the changing room area to meet the players and sign autographs. That was a given thing for every Friday morning, so the accessibility went both ways. It worked both ways. And also in that respect, we always, occasionally, very occasionally, I'm changing my words here, got coach loads of supporters down to the training ground just to watch us train. And they were allowed in and they were allowed to watch and, observe what was going on. So that's the type of interaction you just wouldn't get today for various reasons, and some good, some bad. But
absolutely.
No, I always loved the access to the supporters. Maybe it's because no one actually came up and gave me too much grief to my face, but no, I loved it. I loved being with them.
I think the thing with West Ham fans, by and large, Tom, and I've said this many times, and you'll know this, Duke. If we can see that the players on the pitch are giving everything they can, whether we win, lose, draw that match is irrelevant. We will applaud that team off the pitch, no problem at all. I think where the problem occurs is if you look at players and you see players that are fundamentally, you can tell with your own eyes that they've not given everything that they've got, and that's when they probably get a little bit of stick. But if players have given everything that they've got to give, the result is really an irrelevance largely.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, again, I've played in teams where you just look and think, this person shouldn't be here, or he's not trying, or you might have a word with him or fall out, but not at West Ham. players have bad games or off days, but they know it. But they're the first to admit it, and they never seem to get off-field grief from the supporters. Supporters pay their money. Heck, they're entitled to say within reason and do within reason what they say and feel, without stepping over any lines. But after a match, it's all forgotten. You turn out for the next game, and it's just a clean start again. It's again, having said I wasn't aware. I can't say I didn't take any verbal abuse. I just wasn't aware of any coming my way, so I didn't have to deal with that. But no, I'm going to put my neck out here. Back in the first division, pre-Premiership days, way back, I played in some of the best at the major clubs: Manchester United, City, Nottingham Forest, Liverpool's, Everton. Even when I was at West Ham, those sort of teams, Newcastle's. Never will I. Liverpool supporters can say what they want. Man United support, I would never say there's a bunch of supporters who could outdo West Ham supporters. And that's, I know it might be because I'm on here with you and it's a West Ham thing, it's easy for me to say that. But people who know me know that I won't talk rubbish about it. That's just the way it is. That's the best time of my life, football-wise, and the best supporters I've ever worked. I'll say worked for, because you have to work in front of your supporters.
Well, I think I can say, and I think Duke, you'll agree with me, that on behalf of the West Ham fans, I thank you for what you've just said there, Tom, because for you to be able to say that is like I say, it's testament to the West Ham fans, of which I count myself a fully paid up member, and so does Duke. So,
well, the incident that I still go back to is when I had a reunion just over 12 months ago in London at Hilton, and funny enough, it was sold as a goalkeeper's legend, right? So I think I gate crashed that one. we went in there, and I had nothing to do with West Ham for the best part of 30 years. Absolutely nothing whatsoever, apart from in my mind. And at that event, the number of people who were queuing up to talk to me, and autographs and stories, I couldn't believe it. I just thought, how the hell do these people know who I am? And one of the event organizers came out and says, Tom, once you're a hammer for life. And I thought, wow.
Was this Len by any chance?
Len, yeah.
Len Herbert.
Yeah. So that got me back in the involvement side of it. But just to actually realize that these people still knew me, let's put it that way, or realized who I was, it was incredible. So that's just what the club are.
Wow.
Not just remember, but still care. I think is we've had the questions. People remember, people still care. They and I guarantee you, those that are watching this now, those that are going to watch this back, and they hear what you've just said there about the best fans and everything else. You're going to be this will be very, very well received by the guys that end up coming back and the girls that come back and watch it.
I hope so. And I'm not saying it just to say it. I don't do that.
No.
From when I stopped playing football, I never spoke football. I'm not a person who'll go into somewhere and say, hey, guess what? I'm X, Y, or Z. So now it's a little bit different because a few people where I live know my background. And they ask me questions like you're asking, but not in depth, because they support somebody else, but they're just curious. I can tell you one little story if you've got a minute or two.
Absolutely.
Please.
I don't know about when you're programming. As I said, when I finished football was finished. I took an interest in results, but that was nothing. And for a certain reason, I moved over to France for 4 years, four and a half years. And the only people who knew me or anything about me was my daughter's family and her friends. But then they left me alone because mostly they like rugby or something like that. And when I lived in Leon, I used to go to the old city, the old town, because they had Irish pubs on a Sunday and they would show Sky football, right? And I'd go in there, mind my own business and stand and have a glass of wine, watch it. And I was watching one game one Sunday afternoon, and it was Tottenham and Chelsea. And I was standing at the bar, and there was a really loud English chap next to me, making himself known. And I'm dragging this out. I'm trying to speed up. The result was Chelsea beat Tottenham 1-0. Okay. It meant nothing to me. It was just I was watching English football on an on-off occasion. And this chap he said, anybody who's happy with that result, put your hand in there, right? So I thought, sorry, I put my hand in there. And they started on me, why are you this and why are you that and why do you support Chelsea? I said, I don't support Chelsea. He says, well, why? He says, well, who do you support? And I said, West Ham. Now, this fella looked at me. I said, my God, I know who you are. And my world sunk because I was living in oblivion of anything. Nobody knew me, nothing. And I'm living in France, minding my own business, having a good time. This chap recognised me. And the funny thing was he owned a pub next door, but they didn't have a television. And he took me next door and I never went back again after that. Because I'd been exposed, you know what I mean? Somebody had actually recognised me. I thought, to hell with that. So as much as you try not to put yourself out there's always going to be somebody somewhere can point a finger at you. So that was the only time that ever happened to me.
I was actually in Lyon earlier this year for the Europa League game.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah, nice. But we got any more questions for Tom Duke?
Yeah, I'm gonna try and merge a few in together, so you can kind of cover 2 or 3 at once. Tom, do you watch any football now? Are you kind of does it pique your interest? Premier League nowadays? Are you an avid watcher?
I have to be honest. I'm not an avid watcher. I tend to watch European matches, European Championship matches. I now watch West Ham matches when they're on the television. I'm back in the groove for that one. But that's the only football team I would watch, as I say, apart from European matches. Now that came about because some lovely people took me to Upton Park, West Ham's ground for that last match, and it got me back involved and made me realise what I'd been missing. So if they're on television, or if I ever get a chance to go back to a home match, I'll take it. But I'm not an avid. I won't watch football on the television every night of the week unless it's something that stirs my interest, which is primarily West Ham now. Again.
Well, I'll tell you what. With that being said, then I'm gonna give you a Happy Hammerettes question. Obviously, as you said there, let's constabulary out. Here we go, right underneath my window. Thank you for that.
Are you in jail?
No, I sometimes feel like it. I do. I sometimes feel like it.
He's next to the. Good.
I'm actually next to the biggest police station in Europe.
All right.
I run a pub. I actually run a pub in Lewisham, which is kind of enemy territory, Tom. I'm pretty damn close to the blue and white of Millwall, where I am. I actually have the London Stadium nameplate that you've got up behind you. I actually have that up in my pub, along with a picture of the old crest. And I do take some stick on a regular basis from the Millwall fans that come in. They give
That's
it all of that.
Right, isn't it?
I tend to kind of cut my ear and say, I can't hear you down there. So, you're going to have to speak up a little bit. But no, just coming back to Happy Hammerette's comment here. She says, obviously, if you watch West Ham regularly, and as you say, you kind of got back into it again. Who do you think, in your opinion, is the better keeper between Areola and Fabianski? Right on the spot with this one.
Yeah. So, okay. I don't know who they are. Another programme asked me this in the summer, or just at the beginning of the season. Would I come on a Q&A and discuss that situation? And I said I couldn't, because at that time, the only goalkeeper I'd seen was Fabianski. I hadn't seen the other chap. I'd heard of him, obviously. So it was difficult for me to make a comparison. I've seen Fabianski play a lot more. I've seen the other chap, and I don't want to make a fool of myself any more than I am. I don't really know how to pronounce his name, so I'll call him the other goalkeeper. I've seen him on TV in the European matches, and I think he's good. I personally don't think there's anything between them. Different strengths, I think. I think from what I can see, Fabianski comes out a lot more than the other chap, but they're both great shot stoppers. But on what I've seen, difficult. I can only say Fabianski because I've seen him more. And that's it. So I don't know if that helps.
Hey, it's an answer. Whether or not she's happy with it, don't worry about it.
Well, she'll have to be happy. That's her name, Happy Hammerette.
It's not. It's Kerry. I'm going to out her. I'm going to out her to Tom. Tom now knows that her name is Kerry. I am going to take so much stick from that.
You're in trouble.
I guarantee you my phone's going to blow up in a minute, and I don't care.
You're in trouble.
I don't care.
You will when she's abusing you down the phone.
I'm going to get in so much shit. It was the same as when you called her short stack to Tony Carr. She went batshit. It was great. Couple of quick fire questions then, Tom. We'll rattle through quite a few questions quite quickly. Cyber wants to know, what do you make of the third kit, the orange and white one? What's your opinions on that? I know Rob's, he doesn't think it's West Ham, but not you.
No, I agree. No, I stick to what you are. That's it. In some description, there are various ways you can use our colours. You don't have to introduce another colour like orange into it. That's it.
There you go, Cyber.
You're on the same page as me.
Says, Tom. Go on, Rob. Tell Tom. Go on.
Well, no, it's real simple. Home kit, claret torso, sky blue sleeves. Away kit
with a shirt on that's completely claret. But
no, that's fine. But this was the 86, 85, 86, 87 kit. So the away kit, blue torso, blue sleeves with claret cuffs and round the collar, with 2 claret hoops, and the third kit, white with 1 claret hoop, 1 blue hoop, and sky blue collars and cuffs. Job done.
Yep, sounds good. Sounds good to me.
You have an official tick next to your kit choices now, Rob, from an ex-Hammer. There you go. See,
ex-West Ham captain as well.
Hey, I like it.
I'd forgotten that already.
I'm using it. Yeah, I've got a seal of approval from a former West Ham captain. That will do me.
Okay.
Peter wants to know: did you save many penalties in your career?
In my career, yes, lots. There you go.
There you go. There's your answer, Peter. I hope that. I like it. It's short and to the point. I think I know. I think I'm going to know the answer to this one. I'm just literally picking random, so we get through. I think I'm going to know the answer to this one, Tom. But Happy again. She wants to know who was the best manager you played under.
I could tell you the worst. It'd be easier that way.
Go on, then.
Well, obviously the best is the man, isn't it, John Lyle? I played for managers. Some were okay, some were good, and then you take it to a different level with John. So there's no argument. John was the best manager in every department. I don't mean just as football, man management, organisation, everything. Things that I didn't realise a manager got involved in. So yeah, just fabulous.
I like that. I'm not going to ask that one because you've just already got. Peter wants to know: do you have any tattoos, Tom?
Absolutely not. For two reasons. I'm not brave enough to have it done, and I don't think my body would show them off too well. So no.
Who was the guy? Was it one of the Dimbleby brothers? Was it Richard Dimbleby, David Dimbleby? I think he was well into his 70s, and he had his first tattoo or something like that. And I just thought, what's the point? I don't get it. You know, you've gone for sort of 70 or however old he was when he had it, and it's like now you're having a tattoo. I don't get it.
I've got absolutely nothing against them.
No, but just thought it was quite odd going that long.
I've seen some lovely tattoos on some lovely people, but I just don't have the gumption to do it. And as you say, when you get to whatever age you get to, you're past it. You don't need it.
No.
Starts off as barbed wire around your arm and ends up looking like a picket fence as everything starts to stretch and go south. Yeah, I'm the same as you, Tom. Keep needles away from me. I'd love a tattoo, but I am shit scared. There's no way in the world someone's coming up with me with a needle that moves that bloody quickly. Let's put it that way.
No.
Budgie wants to know, do you think you'll be down for the Anderlecht game at the London Stadium?
Well, I've put it this way. I've got feelers out because I wouldn't come down for every home match even if I could afford it and wanted to do it. I'd be very selective. If I could get down for that match, I would be there. Absolutely.
Well,
but I'm testing.
Let us know, because I might have to get a ticket then so I can come and say hi.
I might see if I can help with that one, Tom. Potentially, I might be able to. I can't promise anything, but
I didn't make that statement looking for tickets.
No.
If we can help, I mean, then we're getting him in the carpenters, Rob.
Yeah, get him on the boats.
Get him on the boats.
He'll love it.
Okay, so that was Budgie's. Let's go. Mark Brown again. It's been a while since we had a Mark one. We've still got 6 in the chat. He wants to know, did you have a pre-match routine? He doesn't recall any John Burridge style warm-up.
No. Budgie was a one-off at that era doing those sort of things. Our routine was you get yourself kitted up, ready, pre-match chat from the gaffer, and you'd run out onto the pitch 5 minutes from kickoff, and I'd stand and go, and Tony Cotty and McAvenny who would kick a few balls at me, and that was it. But another interesting thing about that warm-up in those days, that's all we did. I had nothing psychological or suspicious other than that. When we came out of the tunnel, we went to the left, up to that end. So the chicken run was right opposite the tunnel. So if I was standing going, they've got 3 balls to kick at me, and one goes over the bar and I save one, and one goes out to the corner flag where the chicken run was, and you've got to go and get that ball, haven't you? Ooh. So they'd look at each other and they say, Tom, go and get it. I said, nope, no chance. This is just going to pick a ball, a kick-in ball, 2 minutes before kickoff, right? And I think, no, I'm not going over there, because that's just like what it was. That ball would stay there till after the game. There was no way. But that was our warm-up procedure. Yeah, there was none of this fancy going out for half an hour and then coming back in and, no, artificial goals in the middle of the pitch. No, none of that.
Let me ask you this. If you're aware, I read something, I think yesterday, possibly even the day before, about Billy Bonds and one of his warm-ups. He used to go into the gym that used to be located, I believe, underneath one of the stands, and he said he wouldn't kick a ball in the gym. He'd put the ball against the wall, and he would make block tackles against that ball while he was at the wall. He'd literally run and stick his foot against the ball and obviously try and just wait for the rebound or whatever, but just pin it there. Were you ever privy to that? Did you know that that's what he went and did?
I can understand it and I can believe he did it. I didn't know he did it, and I never saw him do it. That small gym, it was there if you wanted to use it. It wasn't. You weren't told to go in and do a warm up. So I don't think I was in it more than once, but I can imagine Billy doing that. I'm just glad it wasn't me that was standing against the wall while he was block tackling me.
Someone did comment that they must have repaired that wall several times.
and the ball as well. Yeah.
Rob, you want to add anything before I carry on?
No. Let's get some of these questions kicked out.
We got. I'll tell you what. Let me do the. I think we've got one video left. We've got one video from Paul, and then I think
I was going to say you might recognise this guy.
and then I think we've got 4 or 5 questions that we'll rattle through, and we can then wrap it up. Here's Paul.
Oh, hi, Tom. Hi. Yeah, I've got a kind of, I suppose, a general question, which kind of compares footballing eras. We hear a lot now about, managers losing dressing rooms, which often cost them their jobs, which is, perhaps quite topical at the moment. But going back to your era when you played under John Lyle, and I appreciate it is a different era, but were there any other times where, you as a player and as a collective group could question John Lyle and his coaching staff about formations or the way you were playing to raise things if they weren't working out? Or was it something you couldn't really do? Was it an open relationship? Just really like to know what that was like, because as I say, I don't remember when I was a kid in that time ever reading about managers losing dressing rooms, as it were. So yeah, just what was the culture like between John Lyle, coaching staff, and the players, and what that communication was like? Thanks a lot.
Okay, and that's interesting. I don't recall anybody ever questioning John publicly. I mean that as in a training session or in the dressing room at a match. I'm aware of certain situations where players have actually gone into his office to ask questions about certain things. But I don't think it would be anything to do with tactics or it'd be more personal as to why they're not playing or something like that. But John always made it very clear John was the boss. Everybody had an opinion as to how things should go, but the only opinion that mattered was John's. And that was one of his sayings. And that went for his coaching staff as well. If they said something, John said that was John speaking. So no, I don't recall any disputes or anything untoward like that ever happening while I was at West Ham. But here's the but, and it's not to do with West Ham. Again, I've got to go way back. I've been involved in 2 clubs where we got the manager the sack. Well, I've been involved in one club where we got the manager the sack, and I've been involved in another club where I made it quite clear to the manager what I thought, and I was quickly out the door. So way back then, you could get a manager chopped for whatever reasons. I don't know if you want me to elaborate any or not.
I was about to ask if you're comfortable with expanding upon it. Fine. If you'd rather not say any more, then it's entirely up to you, Tom.
It matters not to me because people that know me know I'm just telling the truth. So I'm not going to be liable or slandered, right? Okay. But again, they're way back. One of the managers came to Sheffield United when I broke my leg. Mm-hmm. And, well, he did silly things. He came from the 3rd division to the 1st division, and he made it quite public to the players that he believed the 3rd division players were as good as the 1st division. And he went ahead and brought about half a dozen in, right? And didn't work out. And he dropped regular, established, legend 1st division players from Sheffield United team. And I was coming back from injury, and we played a match at Derby County on a Wednesday night. It was horrible. Freezing cold, raining, everything you expect at Derby. And I think we got beat 4 or 5-0. And this reserve team had me in it. I was coming back from a busted leg, but I was in it. And 5 senior Sheffield United players. And he had a meeting after the match in the dressing room, pointed fingers saying you're all rubbish, you're all this, you're all that, you're all the rest of it, etc., etc. The next morning, and in those days, you always got 2 directors going to a reserve match. And the next morning, there was a meeting at 11 o'clock, and he walked in and he pointed fingers to the 6 of us and says, "You've just got me the sack." Because one of the players immediately reported back to the director what this manager had said to these players, and he was out the door the next morning.
Oops.
So it does. I can't say it happens now because I'm not involved in it, but it did happen then.
Player power of its day.
Yeah, and people say to me now, or I hear it saying on the radio and television, "Oh, he's lost the dressing room." Yeah, it's quite. I don't know if it's simple, but it can happen. If you rub 3 or 4 players up the wrong way, and they're all of the same opinion, then that's what happens.
And especially, I suppose, if they're influential players as well, like maybe sort of like captain, vice captain, people that have been at the club for a long time and have got a lot of contacts and have got a good relationship with the other players within the squad.
Yeah,
it's probably not going to end well for the manager in that situation, I'm guessing.
No. Well, you can see nowadays managers don't have any shelf lifetime and on them. You know, even if you're quite successful, they're still walking on eggshells. So I think they have to be very, very careful how they treat people. And I'll take it back to my time. The best man manager I've ever known was John. He could talk to you about anything. He could talk to me about my daughter's school. He could talk to you about anything. And that's just how he was. Wonderful. So that's it. My battery is running low.
Oh, no.
No, you're okay.
Duke, what else we got in
I just want to quickly touch on this from Mark. He says, "Tom, Gatesy, Duke, thanks for your time this evening. Great show with some lovely stories, Tom. I hope our paths cross one day. I'm sorry for too many questions." Mark, there's no such thing as too many questions.
Absolutely not. I appreciate those. I just hope I gave them some decent answers. You know,
I'm pretty sure that everyone has definitely enjoyed your answers. I'm actually going to come in with what we got. I'm actually going to go with Peter as the last question. I'll leave the others. There's some good questions there, but I'm conscious of the time and stuff. Peter's question, and it'll be the last one for you, Tom. And he wants to know, what was your most memorable game whilst playing for the Hammers?
Difficult. My most memorable game was the last one you were showing on that video clip of saves, the Coventry City game. Only because I enjoyed it. You can have a good game, but not enjoy it, but enjoy the outcome of it. But that match was just a game I enjoyed. It was,
and that was the game you had the captaincy.
Yeah. But it was just everything that happened in that game was good. We scored a lot of goals. We won the game. I made some good saves. And I was the captain. So that's probably the game.
I think if you're going to pick a game as being the most memorable one, and it was as you mentioned just then, the game that you actually captained the side, I think it's a bloody good fit for being the one that you remember the most, to be fair, if it's, if that's the one. Gatesy, anything you want to add?
I'll tell you what.
Seeing as you're the man that set all of this lovely stuff.
There is. I'm
gonna. What you got for me?
It's just basically it's what we did with Crossy, if you remember.
Yeah.
I've got a couple of questions. They're just quick fire ones, Tom. They're quite light-hearted in their tone. So they revolve around your former West Ham teammates. So, first one, which of your former West Ham teammates was the biggest moaner? Who was always complaining? Every team's got one.
Tonka. Yeah.
What was he moaning about? The weather and things like that?
Everything.
Anything and everything.
If he could, he did.
Yeah, it's just like, how cold it was, or how long the bus journey was, or anything. You know.
How cold it was. He came from Dundee, for Christ's
Yeah,
sake.
I know. Yeah, but they lived in London for a while, didn't they? Anything.
true.
He'd moan about the tea not being hot enough, or anything. You know, but it was
Brilliant.
just it's his personality. He has to be on the go. He has to be talking all the time. So might as well moan about things. You know.
Fair enough. Which of your former West Ham teammates was the worst dressed?
Oof. I could say me. That's a lie. I don't know. All right. I'm going to insult a lot of people, and it's going to be horrible. And he's not going to speak to me again. Dev.
I've heard of some stories actually, and where his dress sense was questioned. So I don't think you're the first person I've heard say that.
You know, because you asked me to.
I think Crossy actually said himself, didn't he? I think that was his.
He had to think, didn't he?
Yeah.
And then he said it was probably me. So, but
Right.
which of your former West Ham teammates was the worst at training?
Oof. Oh. La la la. No, you really. You want me to answer this, really?
Up to you. If you'd rather take the fifth, it's fine.
Nah, okay. I don't. He won't take any offence because he knows it's true. Tony Cottee.
Brilliant.
You know, he would do what he had to do, and that was it. But what he had to do was enough. But he didn't enjoy training. No, unless he was just sticking the ball in the back of the net. Anything else was like a chore.
He wasn't interested in doing the cross-country running and all that.
No.
Neither was Macca. From obviously from what I've read and what I've heard, Macca wasn't a huge fan. It was him and Dixie. They'd wait for the milk float to come back, and they'd hop on the milk float and be delivered to Chadwell.
Yeah, there's a few players do things like that. You know. Yeah,
I think I know who the answer to this one might be, but just in case, which of your former West Ham teammates was the one you'd want by your side in a fight?
Bonzo.
There was no hesitation there.
No. That doesn't mean there aren't any others. There's a hell of a lot, but the most, Billy. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Crossy said the same thing. There was no hesitation from him either. He just went Bonzo. Yeah. So I'll tell you what. Then just to expand upon it, put Bonzo to one side. Who else would you? Who's the other one that you choose and why?
Yeah. Okay. You're going through it. I would go with Ray Stewart.
Tonga again.
Yeah.
He was a bit of a hard man on the quiet.
Yeah. He was there at your, he was there at your back even when you didn't need him. But, so if I needed somebody else, if I had the both of them, it'd be great. So,
I love hearing the stories of you guys, back like you just said there, backing you up, even though you didn't need him there. He was like over your shoulder, what you want kind of thing. I love it. I love hearing all of that because you don't see too much of it anymore. I know that sounds a bit. There's a lot of handbags and everything else, and then it's all broken up quite quickly. But you say that, and I mean, I was talking to someone the other day about, you just mentioned Bonzo there. I was talking to someone in my pub about there's a picture that did the rounds again on Twitter of Julian Dix against Wolves. I believe it was at Molineux, Rob. And he's literally got one guy around the scruff of the neck, dragging him to the floor, ready to punch someone else that's laying on the floor. And Bonzo's running down the touchline, suited and booted, like this panic look on his face, like, oh shit, what's he up to now, kind of thing.
Yeah,
but yeah,
I sent off there.
I think he will again.
Yeah, what a surprise. Anyway, Tom, which of your former West Ham teammates was the team joker? We might have mentioned this earlier, but
again, for someone that would make a nuisance of themselves to be funny was Ray. You know, he would do things that you just think, don't do that. It's going to get you into a lot of trouble. But he would do it anyway. You know, nothing nasty, but just like practical jokes and things like that. And
love it.
Apart from that, most of it was, as I said, pretty tongue-in-cheek, silent treatment. You know, you knew something was being done to you, but you didn't know what it was or said about it. But Ray was the one that would put himself out there and do all the practical jokes and things like that. Yeah.
Now,
I told you, he couldn't sit still. He had to do something, you know, so he always had to do something.
Now, the wording of the next one might, I will qualify it. Which of your former West Ham teammates was the teacher's pet? Now, I'm not necessarily saying... Sorry? Oh, you still there, Tom?
Oh, I think we might have lost him.
Oh.
Has the battery gone?
Battery might have gone.
Possibly the battery went.
Oh, it's frozen. I was going to go on to say, because I think when people see teacher's pet, they have a negative connotation. They think someone that's sucking up,
licking, or
It's not necessarily that. I mean,
No.
I know the story being. Do you remember when Eric Cantona did the kung fu kick at Manchester United? Apparently, I've heard a story that Fergie went into the changing rooms and started berating a load of the players and sort of like, and then when he got to Eric Cantona, bear in mind he's just kung fu kicked a spectator, and he's gone, Eric, you can't really be doing that.
Yeah, as if to say, well,
you know, someone that treated more favourably, but. It appears that Tom's phone. He did mention earlier that his battery was giving out.
Indeed, yes. Unfortunately, it's one of them things. I mean, it's listen, he probably used up a lot of his battery. We have been going 2 hours and 2 minutes now, and probably spent about 40 minutes, Rob, trying to figure out how to get online earlier. So what I will say, just from me, I don't want to speak for you, Rob, or anyone else in the chat, but a couple of people have alluded to it there, that it was again another really enjoyable chat from another really, and I'll say it, a really likable character. He spoke fondly of his time at West Ham. You could hear that. You mentioned earlier about him going out on loan. Did it ever cross his mind? And his answer to that was, well, why would I? Everything he really had was sat there in front of him. Again, spoke with such love and adoration of the club, as us as fans. So again, as I've said to the other guys before, thank you for everything you've done. He's probably not going to hear this unless he watches it back. But you can send him. Paraphrase it if you want.
Yeah.
Just thanks for everything he did as a servant for our club. Once a hammer, always loved because of that. And I just again, I appreciate him taking time out of his evening to come and spend time with a pair of prats like us. Really,
and just sort of like, in case anybody thinks that, oh, hang on.
Hold up.
I think he's back.
Hey.
Sorry about that. No, that's okay. We thought your battery might have died. To say we to be fair, we were sort of getting to the last little nuts and bolts of it. But just really quickly, if just to rattle through the last couple that I had, to do before we let you go about your business. Now, I should qualify this. It says, which of your former West Ham teammates was the teacher's pet? But a lot of people get a negative connotation with that. I'm not necessarily after someone that was a blatant arse kisser, but someone that maybe John Lyle treated maybe a little bit more favourably compared to others. Was there anyone that was sort of like singled out for special treatment?
Okay, maybe if I change your words around a little bit, wasn't favoured, treated different. handled differently, I think.
Okay.
I think I would go back, but I don't know what goes on behind closed doors. But in front of it, I think there were three come to mind. Dev, because I think John knew how to get the best out of him, what to say and what not to say. Sir Trevor, because everybody just loved Trevor Brooking, and the manager was no different, and he made it aware. But I think his favourite player was Bonzo, because he had no trouble. But if he needed something delivered to the other players, or told to people, Billy was his go-to person. And I think I would say in my time there, Bonzo was the person that you knew that John relied on and could treat him differently without
special
upsetting anybody else.
relationship.
Yeah. He could talk to Billy, say things to Billy, put his arm around him, knowing that no one else would be upset or bothered. So I would have to say Billy was the one that he had a special relationship with in that respect.
Fair. And the last one from us, Tom. Which of your former West Ham teammates was the one you roomed with on away trips?
Well, that's interesting. When I first started and got in the first team on away trips, it was Billy. I don't know if that was just to make me feel comfortable, or be with a chilled person, because after your evening meal, you go to the hotel room. Bonzo just read books, predominantly cowboy books from memory.
Okay.
So it was a calm influence to have around you. But in the latter times, it was Ray Stewart, which was okay, but was better than okay, because he was a good roommate, but he just kept talking. So there's that downside, and he couldn't sit still. He couldn't say at 10 o'clock, I'm going to bed and going to watch telly or read a book. He had to be chat, anything. Didn't matter what it was. About two flies climbing up the window, what one to get to the top first. So to me, it was fabulous, but he just wouldn't stop talking. So I would say Ray was my favourite.
Brilliant. Well, that's the last question we've got for you, Tom. It's been an absolute delight to have you on. I've got to say, I mean, you've given up over 2 hours of your time, plus all of the sort of like trying to get the stream working beforehand, which you were working so hard behind the scenes to try and get it to work. Tom, I
apologise. I apologise for that.
No, there's no need to apologise at all. It's one of those things. I'd just like to say two things. One, first of all, thank you for your service, 8 years service at the club, 100 matches in all competitions, and the captaincy, which I found out today. I'd just like to say thank you for all of your service to West Ham United. And I'd like to thank you on behalf of Duke and myself for giving up your time to come on here and answer all of the questions that have been fired your way. I really do appreciate it.
That's no problem. I appreciate you having me on. Thoroughly enjoyed myself, even with all the hiccups that I've created. But thank you very much. It's been fabulous. Absolutely fabulous.
Been our pleasure. Well, I'm gonna roll the outro credits, as I say. I'll talk to you in the green room, Duke and I, if we may, Tom, just to make sure everything you're happy with. I'll just do the outro, which basically consists of me saying to Duke, what are we, my friend?
I apologise for my language, Tom. We are fucking massive.
I'd rather hear it than be deaf.
There you go. Come on, you irons.
Top man. Lovely.